So I just wanted to do an intro video on Bosals before I go on to the ridden, because I get a lot of questions about this. So let's start from the top. So this is your sort of standard Bosal. It's a rawhide one made by Martin Black. Rawhide's not very rigid, so you'd start this on like your baby horses where you can bump them off. They've got nothing really to lean on because it's got not much give. It's well made, it's nice and smooth. You know, if you run your hand around a Bosal and it's rough, then what you've got to remember is it's going to sit on their nose here, and then if it's rough, it will rub them here. So that's why you always want a nice quality, expensive, unfortunately, Bosal, which that one is. So coming down to that is a 3/4 inch. That will do you on most horses. If you bought one of them, you know, it would last you forever. You could have that on your baby horses and your finished horses. Going to this is a Latigo leather Bosal. It's got a lot more give, it's a lot softer. I actually had this custom made for my horse. I have this on more sensitive horses, because if you get a pushy horse on this, there's not much they can, there's just too much give in this for a pushy heavy horse. That's why you need your rawhide, because you can bump them off this a lot easier. Bumping off, we'll go into that turn on the ridden one. So you've got your go-to one, I'd say. Then you've got this Latigo one that I have. This is a 5/8, so it's just going down a size. And then this one, these are the 3 Bosals I use and only really need, to be honest. This would be a Bosalita or a pencil Bosal. I don't think this is actually a Bosal, I think it's a tie down, just because that is an optional thing, but tie downs usually have them. But I just picked it up second hand off the internet because I just can't find anything like this for sale over here. So anyway, so the reason why this is anything under a 1/2 inch is going to be called a Bosalita or a pencil Bosal. For that reason is you can 2 rein in it. So the reason why this is so much thinner, okay, basically on a basic video of this, is this can be put under your bridle and you can 2 rein on it. So if you don't know what 2 rein means, is basically if you started your horse in the Bosal, not a bit, not a snaffle bit, then you wanted to transition into a shank bit, then basically you would get one of these, because all your training will be on this, and then you'd put your bridle on, and then you'd have a rein, you medicates off this, and then your bridle reins off your bridle, and then you'd use these signals to communicate to the horse what you want, and then you'd start training it from like basically transitioning from this to your bridle with the 2 reins. But that's very vaquero style. The one thing I want to mention on this video that a lot of people probably would never have noticed, okay, so let's use this Martin Black one as an example. So if you can see here, I can put my finger through here, okay, so it's got a very pronounced gap there. In both of these there is not, okay, so these 2 braided parts come straight out of the knot. There's no space in between there. Basically what that means is you've got to tie the medicates a different way around them. So with this one you'd have to drop your tail through, okay, it's just example, so you drop your tail through, that's what I mean, and then you'd have to loop around the knot like that, and then loop around the tail the other way, okay. Again, there's loads of videos on YouTube, but that's basically how you're going to protect that knot, because otherwise if you just put the tail through there, this is going to widen and it's going to affect your knot. So basically on this one there is room for the tail, so you don't have to do that. So basically on this one you can put your tail straight through, and then you can wind your knot around like this, whereas the other one you had to put the tail up a bit, put the knot under it, sorry, put the loop under it, and then go around the knot like that. So that's just something to be aware of. Otherwise, if you've got one that's close together and you just put the tail in and you start using it, it can actually just ruin your knot and ruin your Bosal. So just interesting fact there. So we'll go on to the ridden, how we fit a Bosal, and why it's important to know how to use a Bosal, otherwise you're wasting your time. We'll do this on the next video. So hope you enjoyed that and it was helpful. More. This is a Bosal. And when you put the reins on it, the Mike reins, it's called a hackamore then, just to clear that point up, because people call it hackamore on a Bosal, but basically when you put the reins on, then it becomes a hackamore, but on its own, it's a Bosal. So we've got the rawhide Bosal on him now. So this could do with reshaping, to be honest with you, because I've got a bit of gap in here, but all in all, it fits in pretty well. Obviously your meat cakes would be attached to this part, and what I want to do without the meat cakes on is show you how it is used. So you cannot put a direct pull on a Bosal. What do I mean by a direct pull? So you cannot put steady pressure, like a direct pull on a Bosal, because the horses will learn to lean on it, and this is why it's so hard. If you've been used to riding in a bit, you ride completely different in this. You can't keep the contact on them because they'll learn to lean on it. That's why the term bumping comes into it with a Bosal. So as you can see, how the Bosal works as a signal tool is, let's turn him around here a little bit. On the side a little bit. Thank you. You pop here, good lad. I know, flies are bad today. So when you pick up on your reins, this is going to move, okay? This is more of a rigid one, okay, but the whole thing moves. So when I lift this up, you'll notice that this comes up and down on him, okay? You see how it's pulling on his skin, but look, that's just a finger, and that is his signal. So when you pick up on the rein, this whole thing's going to move around his face and give him a signal, and this is where your training comes, because you might put this on and do this to the horse and you might not have any idea what you're going on about, but this is where your preciseness, your timing has got to come into your training, and this is why, you know, a Bosal is a good thing to use. It's nice, it's bitless with the horse, but it's also quite dangerous in the wrong hands, because if you are direct pulling back on it, which is not the way it should be used, all your pressure is going to come here on the nose. Some people have it a lot lower, but here is the bone. I like to have it about here, because then I'm not messing around with the nerves in his nose here, okay? And it's very soft, and the bone gets weaker down here, so I don't like it all the way down there, because if you pull on too much, you can do a lot of damage here, so I have it up here. But you see, the lower you hang it, the more movement you'll get. So on a baby horse, I like it up a bit more, so there's more snug. See, it's not moving like the rope halter, but there is a bit of movement there, and that's your signals, okay? But you see how light it is, really, but that's why you can't be heavy-handed on a Bosal, okay? Because you'll just put all the pressure here, you'll make your horse duller, and that's what I personally like to train a thinking horse off light cues, and then they'll go really, really well in this Bosal. So that's one, but you'll see, again, just reminding, so this is the under the chin pull. So when you lift up on the rein, this is going to move, and these slight movements has got to be indicating to the horse to do a certain thing, and depending on how you've trained him and what cues you want to use. So let's go into a smaller one and see. We'll put the Latigo leather on. See, this has not got much play in it, it's quite stiff. So if you were to bump a horse off with the rein, okay, it's rigid, okay, so there's not much for him to lean on. There's no give in this, so it's a much clearer signal for him to bump. So that's what I mean about bumping, is you see how I bump, bump. So put the pressure on, he's got to move away from it like that. Because if you put a direct pull, he can lean on it. Obviously, he's trying to move away from the pressure, okay? But they can lean on it a lot more. And if they learn to lean on this, this is also known as a bluff. The Bosal is known as a bluff, because if they learn to run through it and lean on it, then you'll never be able to use the Bosal again. It's not that you've got less control, your training has to be much more refined to go into the Bosal, and you must have much more feel and timing than you would in a bit. So let's go on to the Latigo one, and you'll see the difference and the difference of movement in that. Good boy, Anna. So this is the Latigo leather Bosal. Only bits, head up because we can't see you. Right, so in this one, you've got a lot more play in it, there's a lot more give in it, okay? But you'll notice, because this is more flexible, okay, it doesn't really affect too much up here. It does slightly, but it's much more refined Bosal, okay? Softer, you can't have a leaning horse in this because he would probably just run through it. You haven't got that bump, a heavier, you haven't got as heavy a bump on what you do on the leather latigo one than you do on the rawhide. Again, you're going down a size, so again you're looking more refining when you go down a size in a Bosal, because you haven't got the movement you would have now in the rawhide Bosal. So here we go, so we look at this. So really you can see the movement is coming from the cheek piece, not so much up here now. And because it's softer and lighter, it's going to be a smaller and lighter feel for the horse. But that's why you're going to use this for more refinement. It's softer, it's lighter, the horse has to listen more in this. Let's test him. Again, it's not you. Good boy. Good lad. But he can lean on this, like I say, so you wouldn't put this on a baby horse, because this is called, they do call this as a bluff thing, because if they learn to run through it, like I said on the other one, then it's just no good and you'll never be able to ride in it again, because the horse will just know it can push through your hands. That's why you cannot put steady pressure on this. You've got to bump them off it, but that doesn't mean pulling their head off. It means getting their attention on little vibrations of bumps like that. Okay, see how he's coming off them, because he cannot lean on a bump. Okay, good boy. So this is your Bosalita, or your pencil Bosal. This is the one that goes under the bridle, so you'd have it on like this. Obviously it has no reins, no medicates attached to it at the moment, but then you pop your bridle on top, and then this would sit under your cheek piece or your shank. If you have anything thicker than this, bigger than this, you could not do that on those two other Bosals, because it would be too thick. You just wouldn't fit on under the bridle. Hence why this is a pencil Bosal 2-rein setup rather than a thick one. This is for refinement and going into the bridle.